When we think about the huge, world-changing revolutions of the 20th century, we almost always jump to Russia in 1917. But what if I told you that nearly a decade earlier, another massive empire went through its own massive upheaval? It's one of history's great forgotten revolutions, a moment that promised this incredible future of unity and freedom, but instead delivered a tragedy that completely reshaped the Middle East. And that brings us to the core of this whole story, the central question we're going to tackle. What happens when a revolution actually succeeds, only to completely, catastrophically fail? This is the story of the 1908 Young Turk Revolution. It's a story that really forces us to ask what happens when a movement wins its main battle, but just totally fails to fix the deep structural problems rotting everything from underneath. Okay, let's dive in. So to really get what was going on, you've got to understand the state of the Ottoman Empire around the turn of the 20th century. I mean, it was famously known as the sick man of Europe, and for good reason. It was an empire that felt like it was in its final days, just barely holding itself together. And the pressure it was under was just immense. The big European powers were basically carving it up piece by piece. First Cyprus, then Tunisia, then Egypt, gone. This constant dismemberment created this deep, deep sense of crisis and humiliation inside the empire. So how did the ruler, Sultan Abdul Hamid II, respond? Well, he clamped down hard. He threw out the liberal constitution from 1876 and decided to rule as an absolute monarch. All political life was just choked out by this massive web of spies and censors. And, well, you know what happens when you do that? You create the perfect breeding ground for a secret opposition to grow in the shadows. And that is exactly what happened. A secret society of revolutionaries came out of nowhere, and their uprising in July 1908 was just unbelievably fast. And at first, it was incredibly successful. It was like a dream come true. Now, what's so fascinating is who these revolutionaries were. The Young Turks, as they were called, weren't just Turks, not at all. They were this broad coalition. We're talking Turks, Arabs, Armenians, Jews, you name it, all united by this one single powerful goal: get that constitution back and end the Sultan's one-man rule. The real engine behind it all was this secret society called the Committee of Union and Progress, or CUP, a mix of determined military officers and intellectuals. And the revolution itself? It happened in a flash. It all kicked off when a CUP officer, Major Ahmed Niazi, started a small revolt out in the Balkans. But it just caught on like wildfire. Soon, the Sultan's own Third Army mutinied and threatened to march on the capital. The Sultan, realizing his main tool of power, his army, was gone, had no choice. He caved. The scenes that followed were just incredible. Overnight, censorship was gone. In cities all over the empire, people from every single background were out in the streets celebrating together, embracing this new shared identity as Ottomans. For one brief, beautiful moment, it really looked like the empire could be saved. But, and you knew there was a but coming, that euphoric moment of unity, it was tragically short-lived. The revolution had a fatal flaw, a crack in its foundation that would very quickly turn all that hope into disillusionment and division. See, here's the problem. The Young Turk Revolution was a political revolution, but it wasn't a social one. Think of it like this. They changed who was driving the car, but they never bothered to fix the broken engine. They brought back the constitution, they brought back parliament, great. But they left all the old, broken systems, the bureaucracy, the economy, even the Sultan himself, pretty much in place. They just assumed changing the rules at the very top would magically fix everything else. It didn't. And the consequences? They were immediate and they were severe. Instead of fixing things, the political chaos made the currency crash. Inflation shot through the roof. Workers, who quickly figured out this revolution wasn't doing much for them, launched huge strikes. And the new government's response? It looked a lot like the old one: force. As that dream of a quick fix just crumbled to dust, so did that beautiful idea of a shared Ottoman identity. The heart of the revolution, the Committee of Union and Progress, became more and more dominated by hardcore Turkish nationalists. And this completely alienated the very people, the Arabs, the Armenians, the others, who had been celebrating with them in the streets just months before. This failure, this inability to deliver real change, and the turn towards an exclusionary nationalism, it set the stage for everything that came next. It was, in so many ways, a tragic dress rehearsal for the horrors of the 20th century. That failed promise of unity didn't just end in disappointment. No, it paved a direct road to dictatorship and to war. Just look at this timeline. It shows the devastating domino effect. A failed counter-revolution in 1909 gets the Sultan kicked out for good. Then, by 1913, the CUP seizes total power, creating a one-party state. A year later, they drag the empire into World War I, and that dark path led directly to the Armenian Genocide in 1915, and finally to the complete end of this 600-year-old empire in 1922. So the story of the Young Turks really leaves us with this powerful, timeless question. It's a stark reminder that hope, without a real concrete plan for deep structural change, is a really, really fragile thing. And it makes you wonder, is just changing who's in charge ever truly enough?